Since Hollywood actress Grace Kelly married into the Monaco royal family, the family has become the focus of media and public attention. This attention is not only because of Grace Kelly's star power but also due to the dramatic and scandalous private lives of the royal family members. Grace Kelly married Prince Rainier III, transitioning from a movie star to a highly publicized princess, but life in the palace was not as glamorous as outsiders might have imagined. According to biographers, Rainier had at least 3 mistresses within months of their marriage, and Grace was reportedly humiliated by this. Nevertheless, the marriage lasted for 26 years, during which they had 3 children: Princess Caroline of Monaco, the current Prince Albert II of Monaco, and Princess Stéphanie of Monaco. Grace Kelly's 3 children are now in their 50s and 60s, and each has become a target for media gossip. Princess Caroline was rumored to have stolen her best friend's husband, which led to intense public criticism and pressure-induced hair loss. As for Prince Albert II, his scandalous life is well known, from the shocking wedding where he allegedly pressured Princess Charlene into marriage to the revelation of his illegitimate child. Initially, it seemed that the youngest, Princess Stéphanie, led a relatively low-profile life. Still, a few years ago, rumors spread wildly, suggesting that she was responsible for Grace Kelly's fatal car accident. Aside from these rumors, her love life has also been a complete mess. She reportedly slept with her bodyguard, and not just one. If they were both single and in love, it would be one thing, but the affair started while the bodyguard's girlfriend was pregnant. This wasn't the only time such a thing happened. If you dig into Princess Stéphanie's life, it becomes clear that she truly fits the saying, "Birds of a feather flock together." Princess Stéphanie, the 3rd child of Grace Kelly and Prince Rainier III, was born in 1965 in the Palace of Monaco. As the youngest of the 3 children, it's no surprise that she was greatly cherished. Her mother, Grace Kelly, described her as a warm, bright, fun, smart, and capable girl, as well as an excellent athlete, even affectionately calling her a wild child. However, this wild child, who was lovingly referred to by her mother, became the prime suspect in the long-running rumor that she was responsible for her mother's death. Grace Kelly's premature death remained a mystery for a long time. She was only 52 years old, and the truth behind her fatal car accident was shrouded in uncertainty. She was supposed to help her 17-year-old daughter, Princess Stéphanie, settle into her school in Paris, but tragically, on the way back to the Monaco Palace from France, she was involved in a car accident, separating mother and daughter forever. According to the Washington Post, her official cause of death was the result of 2 severe strokes. She had already been declared brain dead, so her family decided to disconnect her life support system. However, many questions remain unanswered. Grace Kelly was known to dislike driving, so it seems somewhat unbelievable that she was behind the wheel of the car on the way back to Monaco with her daughter. Although the journey was only 12 miles, the winding roads made the drive take about 40 minutes. At one point along the route, there was a sharp turn requiring a 150-degree bend. This was where the problem occurred. Grace Kelly's car, with her daughter Stéphanie inside, failed to make the turn, and the vehicle, along with the passengers, plunged over the guardrail and down the slope below. From the beginning, rumors were suggested that although Stéphanie was only 17 years old at the time, still a minor without a driver's license, she might have been the one driving. This claim came from Sesto Lipio, a resident, who said he saw the girl in the front and the woman in the back. However, 2 other witnesses stated that they saw Grace Kelly driving the car. The rumor that Stéphanie was driving has spread widely, and many people suspect that it was her driving that caused the accident, leading to her mother's death. Stéphanie herself was deeply troubled by the rumors. In 1989, 7 years after the accident, she finally revealed the truth. She said, "I was under so much pressure because everyone kept saying it was me driving the car, that it was my fault, that I killed my mother. It's very hard to accept that kind of life when you're 17. Then, in 2002, 20 years after the accident, she reiterated her innocence. "I wasn't the one driving. The impact of the crash caused my body to be thrown around in the car, and my mother was thrown into the back seat. The door next to the passenger seat was completely crushed, and I had to get out from the only side I could, the door next to the driver. Not only did I experience the terrible trauma of losing my mother at such a young age, but I was right there with her when the accident happened. No one can imagine how much I've suffered. I'm still painfully tormented by it." Another widely circulated rumor was that Grace Kelly became distracted while driving because she was arguing with Stephanie, who, at 17, wanted to marry her boyfriend, a race car driver named Paul. However, this claim was never confirmed by Stephanie herself. She said that the discussion between them strictly belonged to the two of us, because some of the scenes and certain things from that story are deeply personal to me. According to Stephanie, it was Grace Kelly who suddenly felt a sharp pain while driving and lost consciousness before the car plunged down the cliff, which led to the accident. Perhaps Grace Kelly's death was truly just a tragic car accident, with no conspiracy behind it. However, the pressure that Stephanie carried from being the one by her mother's side in her final moments has never left her. But she also understands why the public and the media were so obsessed with the details. She once said, "There was so much magic and fantasy around my mother, to the point where, in some ways, she almost seemed to cease being human. People had a hard time accepting that someone so beyond the ordinary could die from something as ordinary as a car accident. So, they thought, it must have been my fault, because she was too perfect, she couldn't have been taken by a car accident." From Stephanie's attitude over the years toward her mother's death, it's clear that she was deeply troubled by the incident for a long time, as people's attitudes often blamed her, the only one present, leading her to even blame herself. Stephanie once said, "After a while, you can't help but feel guilty." It's unclear whether this is why, in her love life, she always seemed to gravitate toward those who would protect her. This protection, however, wasn't about emotional understanding and commitment. Coupled with Stephanie's rebellious nature and her difficulty in discerning people's true character, it led to her choice of boyfriends and husbands who were widely regarded as bad choices. Before her first marriage, she had dated several well-known men, including a race car driver, a nightclub owner, and an actor, but none of those relationships went anywhere. Soon after, she entered a phase of dating her bodyguard. She fell in love with her bodyguard, Daniel Ducruet, which shocked even her father. He couldn't believe it. Why choose someone from the family's staff? Prince Rainier III was shocked not only because Daniel was the family's bodyguard but also because at the time, Daniel's girlfriend was already 6 months pregnant. Not only did his daughter become the other woman in someone else's marriage, but her future husband was also a man who had cheated while his girlfriend was pregnant. Could Prince Rainier III accept this? What made him even more furious was that shortly after, Stephanie herself also became pregnant. Because her father, Prince Rainier, strongly opposed Stephanie marrying Daniel, their child was considered an illegitimate child by the royal family. However, the prince couldn't resist the charm of his grandchildren and gradually softened his stance toward Daniel. Eventually, he allowed his daughter to marry her former bodyguard. Of course, being the royal son-in-law wasn't easy. Daniel was required to sign a prenuptial agreement, in which he waived his rights to custody of the children and promised to learn royal etiquette. The love between a working-class man and a royal princess thus entered the realm of marriage. To say there was no genuine affection between them would surely be a lie. The way Stephanie looked at Daniel during those years, it was as if her eyes were glowing. But perhaps Daniel was just a pure, unapologetic bad boy. Shortly after being officially accepted by the royal family, he cheated. And it wasn't just an ordinary affair, it was a scandal of the highest degree, with him being caught in a nude orgy. Stephanie and Daniel married in July 1995, and just over a year later, in August 1996, an Italian magazine published a 40-page spread featuring photos showing 32-year-old Daniel with a stripper, who had once been crowned Miss Belgium nude. The photos were taken at a private estate on the outskirts of Monaco, showing them in a naked orgy. The two were seen embracing on lounge chairs, and Daniel, emerging from the swimming pool, was seen caressing the young stripper. The tabloid reports at the time said, the photos were so explicit that even European gossip newspapers refused to reprint them. This explosive scandal not only humiliated Princess Stéphanie but, even worse, occurred during the 700th anniversary of the Principality of Monaco, tarnishing the country's image. Prince Rainier III, Stéphanie's father, was nearly driven to madness and ordered Stéphanie to divorce Daniel immediately. However, many people in Monaco believed that Daniel's scandal was a trap, orchestrated by royalists who didn't want a working-class man like Daniel to enter the royal family and that they had set him up to be eliminated. What the truth is, who can know? Whether it was a setup or not, the fact remains that Daniel's orgy with the stripper was undeniably captured on camera. There's no faking that. Soon enough, Princess Stéphanie divorced Daniel. After returning to the dating scene, who was her next man? How about a handsome bodyguard? That's right, another bodyguard. Jean-Raymond Gottlieb, a palace guard in Monaco, became Stéphanie's next boyfriend and the father of her third daughter, Camille. Camille has always been in a state of unknown father, as Stéphanie never revealed who her father was and never married him. Monaco royal observers have speculated that the reason Stéphanie didn't disclose the father's identity was to avoid public attention around yet another bodyguard boyfriend. However, it seems to have had little effect, as, despite the lack of official confirmation, people had already widely speculated that Jean-Raymond was Stéphanie's new boyfriend. Stéphanie truly is a royal rebel. She never cared about her status as a princess of a nation and the expectation that she should associate with people of similar rank and status. Instead, she seemed to be drawn to individuals who, in the eyes of the public, were quite mismatched with her. After two bodyguard lovers, Stéphanie fell for a circus elephant trainer. In 1997, 37-year-old Princess Stéphanie presented the Best Animal Trainer award at the Monaco Circus Festival, and the recipient was Franco Ni, the man who would become her future lover. Franco was 10 years older than Stéphanie and was a sixth-generation elephant trainer with a high reputation in his field. But no matter how reputable he was, there was still a huge gap between an elephant trainer and a princess. This is why Stéphanie is considered a rebel. 3 years after meeting Franco, she disregarded her father Prince Rainier's objections and left with her 3 children to follow Franco and the circus to Zurich. At the time, the oldest child was only 9 years old, and the youngest was just 3. And that wasn't even the most shocking part. The most outrageous thing was that Franco was already married. In other words, Stéphanie once again became the other woman in a marriage. She had found another man who abandoned his wife and children. Franco's wife, devastated by her husband's actions, had a mental breakdown and refused to grant him a divorce. This tactic worked quite well, as Franco didn't end up divorcing his wife, and it became one of the reasons Stéphanie eventually broke up with him. Other reasons included Stéphanie's children struggling to adjust to school in Zurich, and the reality of traveling with the circus not matching the fantasy she had envisioned. So, Stéphanie ended this relationship after a year and a half and returned to the palace with her children, but her fascination with circus performers was far from over. Her next partner was another member of the circus, a trapeze artist named Odons Lopez Perez. Very little is known about their romance, except that it was another whirlwind love affair. The two held a private wedding in Switzerland, with neither of their families in attendance. By this point, Stéphanie's father, Prince Rainier, had been driven to despair by his rebellious daughter. It is said that he once stripped Stéphanie of her right to inherit his fortune, as well as her children's inheritance rights. But in the end, after Stéphanie divorced Odons in 2003, everything she had done was forgiven by her father. After discussing so much about Stéphanie's past and love life, it might seem like all she did was upset her father and have relationships. But that's not entirely true. As a princess, her contributions to the royal family may not have been as significant as her brothers and sisters, but she still did some work, such as charity work and serving as a UN AIDS program ambassador, among other roles. However, she didn't have many royal duties, likely because she focused most of her attention on developing her entertainment career. Perhaps to follow in her mother's footsteps, or for other reasons, after recovering from the 1982 car accident, Stéphanie became an apprentice at Dior, guided by the brand's chief designer at the time. She quickly made a name for herself in the European fashion scene, appearing on the covers of magazines like Olaf Vogue and Vanity Fair. She later focused on developing her career in the fashion industry, launching a swimsuit brand, fashion shows, perfumes, and more. In addition to the fashion world, she also made a mark in the music industry. In 1986, her debut single Ouragan became one of the best-selling singles in France's history. Although the start was promising, she approached her music career more casually and didn't release many new songs afterward. This princess, who dominated the entertainment and fashion worlds, was known for her rebellious nature in her youth. Even in her middle age, she quickly remarried, only to divorce just as quickly. However, now in her 50s, the wild child of Monaco seems to have settled down, preferring to spend time with her family. Although Stéphanie herself says, "I may be a princess, but first and foremost, I am a person," after a lifetime of rebelliousness, being able to return to her royal position and live a privileged and stable life transcends the realm of the ordinary person.